Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Well-Fed Business Podcast with myself, Conor Benham, and the Evil Genius. Today, we're talking about little leaks that keep you stressed and exactly how to patch up those little leaks once and for all. How we sort it out is with a topic that's rather worn out when it comes to us. It's rules and boundaries. But before we get into that, we've got to talk about what the little leaks actually are. And it's shit such as allowing people to walk all over you, having to make 100 little decisions a day, allowing needy clients to grasp your time away from you, and even needy employees as well. This whole open door policy, which is rather trendy, is a bunch of old nonsense. These things keeping you stressed, you got to put something in place to deal with them.
What people don't realise is there are some jobs where it's necessary to be operating at what appears to be a very superficial level. Such if you're the CEO, like Elon Musk, for instance, Elon Musk probably has to make 20, 30, 40 decisions, important ones every single day. He hasn't got time really to lock himself in his room for 3 hours working on a single problem. He probably doesn't do that. Many CEOs don't. But for most of us, we're not like that. Most of us who want to excel in some field, whether it's marketing, writing, or anything, podcasting, whatever, we need to sit down and do some pretty deep study of things, deep work as it's called, because otherwise we get distracted. Distractions are everything from notifications on your desktop or your phone calls, people coming into your office. They're the kind of external distractions. Then there's the internal distractions of this, oh, I just want to check my social media, check my LinkedIn, check my Facebook. Why would you do that? What is the point? Checking for what? If people are messaging you expecting some kind of response, then they can wait. They should be waiting anyway. If you respond to every single message in 5 minutes, then you're not very busy. And if clients are so impatient they're going to fuck off and go to someone else, they weren't particularly strong prospects anyway. So the way we do this, the way we stop all this nonsense is by having strict rules and boundaries. Now, boundaries are the areas of our lives we want to protect and keep sacred, if you like, and the rules or the fences we put up to stop people getting onto those boundaries. And the important boundaries are things like time, money, and attention. They're the really important ones. In terms of time, you don't want to be spending your time on other people for free. In terms of money, you don't want to be working for free either. You want to be paid up front. Because let's face it, working and then being paid in arrears is actually working for free, hoping to be paid later. And it makes me laugh because almost everyone I see posting on LinkedIn will claim they have rules and boundaries about things they won't tolerate, and I won't work with just anyone, and I won't tolerate people being rude and things. And then in the next post, they're pissing and moaning and wailing, gnashing their teeth about being treated badly. So they probably do have rules, but they don't stick to them. They don't enforce them. Well, a rule or a boundary you don't enforce strictly is just a suggestion. So don't be surprised when people ignore it. The thing about rules and boundaries is not only do they preserve your sanity because they protect what you want to protect, but they also preserve your willpower. Willpower is apparently a little bit like a muscle. We have a certain amount every day. And if you're constantly having to rethink the same decision over and over again, okay, I've been approached by someone who works for, say, MLM, multi-level marketing. They want help with their copywriting. Rather than thinking over and over again, do I work with this person or do I not? I just have a rule. I don't work with MLM at all, ever, because it's a shitty business model. And while I could probably help that person, the people they'll be taking their money off, they'll be losers, because 99% of all people in MLM lose money. It's just the way the business works. I don't want to be a part of that. So I have rules, and rules in place mean you don't have to keep second guessing yourself, or you don't have to keep making the same decision, having the same conversation with yourself or other people over and over again. It makes life so fucking easy. And people will say, but if I have rules about clients and prospects, well, that's limiting. It's not actually, it's liberating. It's incredibly liberating because you are free to do whatever you want within the rules.
Many of us have worked with contractors or other businesses to come and do a little bit of work with us. And a week or so into the relationship, you start to feel a little bit anxious and worried because you don't really know where you stand with them, and you're not quite sure what you can and can't do, because they typically take that approach of, yeah, you can walk all over us. You can call us anytime, but you're a decent human being, and you know that's not really the case, and you end up in the lurch a little bit. It's a horrible feeling. You feel far better if you're told, right, you can call me between these hours on these days. Otherwise, not at all. Or even better, if you want to get into contact with me, we'll sit you down, we'll have a proper appointment. And if you want to schedule that appointment, you message my assistant. That's the best, even though it's not seen as welcoming and as friendly and is not conventional. Clients appreciate that far more, because not only do they feel special, they know exactly where they stand, and it's just good positioning.
It saves everyone time as well. There's few things more annoying or pointless than saying to someone, okay, let's have a chat. Imagine this going back by email or WhatsApp. How about 3:00 on Thursday? No, I can't do then. How about Friday? No, I'm out of the office Friday. You can go backwards and forwards several times. Or worse, if you actually just call people, can't speak now. No, I'm not in. I'm driving. You play this, I think it's Dan Kennedy calls it like telephone ping pong. You can do that, and it's a waste of everyone's time. The thing about this is every time you do that, every time I say pick up the phone and say call you, if I just did that, I'm interrupting you. And you might say, I can't talk now, John. The fact that you can't talk now doesn't mean to say you've not been disrupted. And what happens is, and I didn't realize this until very recently, and this is neuroscience. I'm not making this shit up. I'm not one of these guru types who just makes things up out my arse. A few things happen. The first is if you're working on a task, say task A, and then you interrupt task A for task B, when you try to focus on task B, you've got a remnant of task A in the back of your mind. They've done this with brain scans and things, and they've done tests. They've done properly peer-reviewed research on this. You have parts of task A still in the back of your mind. People say, I'm great at multitasking. No, you're not. No one is good at multitasking, as far as we're aware. Our brains are not made for it. And people say, women are better than multitasking than men. No, they're not. Human beings are shit at multitasking. The other thing it does is, say I call you, and you say, I can't speak now, John, put the phone down on me, rude as you like, whatever, doesn't matter, make a difference. That leaves what's called an open loop. You're then, you might not realise it, but you are then thinking, I wonder what that was about. Unfinished business. Human beings hate unfinished business. We use the open loops in copywriting all the time. That's to our benefit, because we want to disrupt people's thinking, because that's what we're doing. But if you're working hard on something and you get a phone call or a notification, probably even worse, you might think, oh, okay, I'm going to ignore WhatsApp notifications. And it goes, bing! You know there's something there. And in the back of your mind, you've got this loop running it. So I wonder what that was. I wonder what that was. So that's why in core control, for instance, in week 2, I talk about taking the apps off your phone, turning your phone off, turning notifications off, leaving it out of the room. Now, not just the other side where you can't reach it, but maybe in a different way, you can't fucking hear it or anything else. I don't have notifications on anything except Voxer now. And I should probably turn that off as well after reading something yesterday.
Notifications literally attack your central nervous system, essentially.
Yeah.
Your brain interprets it almost as an attack to the central nervous system, doesn't it? I can't remember where I read that, but I'm pretty sure that's true.
I was reading a book yesterday, funnily enough, called Deep Work. Andrew Huberman talks about this, and the context switching as well. It sounds like we're conspiracy theorists here, but we're not. But the truth is, social media platforms are expertly designed to keep you hooked on them. But it's worse than that, because even the so-called news platforms, the respected newspapers, are shifting towards the world of sound bites and clickbait, because traffic is money, advertising and stuff. You can't blame them. They've lost out on the number of newspapers they sell over the counter, so they've got to make their money somehow. But everything on the internet is trivially easy nowadays. Information is trivially easy to get. It is, and we take the path of least resistance. Now, the downside to that is, being human, we tend not to think things through critically. So we're being bombarded with easy to access material of questionable origin and questionable veracity, and we just tend to accept it as truth. I read it on the internet. Rules and boundaries will stop this nonsense from happening, because if you have a rule that says, I don't have my never mind the tabs, I don't have my browser open when I'm working, for instance. That's a rule you make for yourself, and you stick to it. Those notifications, those temptations cannot happen. I leave my phone in my car when I'm in my office, or I turn it off, or whatever it takes to do it. You make those rules for yourself. You don't keep having to think, should I take my phone? Should I put my phone off? Should I attend to that notification? Establishing these rules is so liberating, because you don't have to think about this stuff anymore, which frees up your mind for everything else.
Your willpower will fail. I think you said it at the beginning. It's essentially like a muscle, and you will tire it out, having to make several decisions throughout the day, having to be disciplined with various different things. And we've all fallen folly to this. We read it, we're horrified. We listen to it on a podcast like this, and we're horrified, and we think, I'll do something about that. And that's what everyone says, yeah, I'll do something about that. And they make a superficial change. They'll delete one app or one night of the week, or that one night where they heard it, they'll leave their bedroom, their phone out of the bedroom. But very quickly, it creeps back in. What we're telling you to do here is sit down with your computer, with a pen and paper, and write out some rules for yourself. Everyone wants to be disciplined. Almost no one is disciplined. An easy way to get disciplined is to write down your fucking rules and then share them with your spouse. I do that. If I come up with something that I want to do, I tell Tamsin, because if I renegade on that, she is the first to call me out.
Because part of this rules and boundaries is that preserving your time and your focus and your attention and your energy and all that kind of thing. Most of our energy is wasted these days on the internet and other people interacting. Take instant messaging, for instance. We used to use it, and we still do, but I've turned all the notifications off now, realizing that, okay, even though they're important because they're to do with our business, I still don't want to get interrupted for them. Nothing's that important. If it's that important, Connor will Voxer me. Yeah. But the thing is, what we're actually doing for the most part is if you think of it this way, it will blow your mind, right? We're actually just moving information around. We're not actually achieving very much. So what you'll get is maybe an email. You might send a link and you say thoughts. If you imagine that scaled up in a big business, maybe say IBM or McKinsey, the consultants, or Twitter, for instance, internal stuff with thousands of employees. So you might send that email to 300 or 400 people in your department, thoughts. Well, all those people will then feel obliged to reply to it because they want to be seen to be working by their bosses. So all of a sudden, you've got 200, 300, 400 people just giving you their thoughts on something which isn't really that interesting. That's just moving information around. They look busy, but they're not achieving anything. It's almost paradoxical to say, by not being connected and not replying to things instantly and being very judicious about what you do reply to, you actually are being more productive than if you're responding to every tweet, instant message, email, and brain fart that people have.
So one of the best books I've read when it comes to communication within teams, and this book came out in 2012, way before remote working became a thing because of COVID. It's called Rework. And it talks about the importance of your team being able to run on asynchronous communication. And their whole hypothesis was that if your business cannot survive with asynchronous organization, your business is a mess and will die eventually regardless. And that's exactly what you're talking about there, John. If you get sent a message, you do not need to be notified straight away. But the importance of asynchronous communication, so you don't have to respond. And their whole thing is don't have notifications on. Their whole thing is you have one bit of software. It's written by Basecamp, funnily enough, so they're selling Basecamp because of it. But they're like, you just have one place that all the activity happens on. So your employees know that's the one place that they need to go where they're held accountable to work on the project stuff. But no one is obliged to respond within 10 minutes. There's no drop of the hat urgent meetings. Good work happens over a long period of times. So these things can wait.
There's an interesting thing I read. The CEO of Yahoo some years ago, I think this was again before COVID, she cancelled everyone's agreement when they were working at home because she basically said you need to be seen to be working. And what's happening is people are at home working and they're not responding to emails and instant messages. So therefore they're not busy, which is ironic because you could be busier and being more productive by not responding to these fucking random brain farts, just moving information around. And if you think about it, again, you've seen people post this. You know, I've got 200 messages in my inbox. My productivity today was I cleared my inbox. How many needles did that move, I wonder? I don't know, but my guess is for most of these people, none. It's probably just responding to random queries. I once did this accidentally. I had no idea about any of it. I was working in London as a contractor on code. And I did it because I'm just awkward and ornery, and autistic, obviously, don't like people. But I had a policy where people would put stuff in my in tray for urgent review. It was documents and stuff, quality documents, all that kind of stuff. Just give me your comments on this. I would just ignore them. And if nobody asked me to do it a second time, I would just shred them after a week. Yeah, because if they're not asking me a second time, it's not important. And the amount of time I saved myself doing that was phenomenal. Because I just didn't get involved in all this shit. Maybe 1 in 10 documents people would actually chase me up and say, have you looked at this because it's important? Then I would do it. But otherwise, I just wouldn't bother because it was obviously not that important. Bit of a brutal fucking way to do it, but it worked really well.
It does. If you're going to take this approach, It's often a good idea to communicate it with those that you're working with, because you'll very quickly find that your tolerance for silly little tasks coming across your desk becomes very, very low. And we've had to challenge it. Everyone that works in our little company has had to say, I'm not doing this. This is pointless. That's hard to say because the person that's given it to you thinks it's important for some reason. But sometimes they're just giving it to you because they don't want to deal with it. They're just passing the shit on. They're like, that's probably something that they need to do. Yeah, just give it to them to make the decision. And then you feel guilty because you've been asked to do it. Oh, it's rude. When in reality, no one wants to do it. It doesn't need to be done. Just shit can the fucking task.
It reminds me of the open door policy that some people have. You can come in any time you like. Dan Kennedy talks about this, to the extent that some people actually take the door off their office. They take it off the hinges, you know. And I think Dan said he tried
Yeah, they got on their hands and knees with the screwdriver.
Yeah, and he tried it, and he just said it was disastrous. And he said he found it much better, because what would happen is, and this is again human nature, and this is the path of least resistance, by the way. If your subordinates have a problem and there's any doubt whatsoever about what to do, they'll come. If you've got an open door policy, they'll come and get you to decide, because then it's your problem. All right, that's just human nature. So your open door policy basically invites people to come and ask you the most trivial questions. If you say to them, "You only come to my door if the building is actually fucking on fire and you're coming to save my life, otherwise I don't want to hear it," what you force people to do, and obviously you must give them then one, responsibility and control to do these things, and also you give them permission to fuck it up and get it wrong. That's fine. You can't expect them to get it right all the time. But by forcing them, by saying to them, "I'm not going to do this, you need to take care of it," they will then sort these problems out themselves. And they'll do a good job. And sometimes they'll get it wrong, but that's okay, because that's what you expect. Now, a halfway house, I've worked with people who've done this, they'll say, well, if there's a problem you really can't solve, or you want my advice with, you can come to me. But you have to come to me with at least 3 ideas you've got for solving it, to show that you've been working on this. That was their rule. And of course, most people, by the time they've thought of 3 ways to solve the problem, they've just gone and fucking done it.
Or it solves itself.
Yeah, or it was never important enough to need solving. It's just a fucking brain fart.
The amount of shit in my life that I just don't touch now, and it just seems to sort itself out, is amazing.
Some people say, I've got a to-do list with 50 things on. And some of those things have been on there for a year. Well, if they've been on your to-do list for a year and you haven't done them and the world hasn't collapsed, they're probably not that important. Seriously. It's a bit like, I'm a real hoarder. I've got cables in my barn that I've had for probably 30 years, just in case I need it one day. We cleared out the barn over the summer and put it all in the skip, because I grew a pair. And it hurt. It was physically painful throwing this stuff away that I'm never, ever going to use again. But I might need that fucking obscure cable one day.
It's an obscure cable. What if you do need it? Where do you even get another? I get it. And it's stupid thinking. It's the same with your business, with tasks, with employee questions, with meetings.
Software subscriptions.
Software subscription. The whole, oh, this could have been an email cliche when it comes to meetings is absolutely fucking true. Look at the meetings you're having. Are they important? Could it be an email? The reason people like having meetings is because it makes them feel productive, and they can't write. They've not thought out their ideas well enough to be able to put it into an email, so they can't, I can't put it into an email. We have to meet about.
Most meetings could be emails, and most emails could be forgotten and ignored and dispensed with, to be honest. Anyway, we need to wrap up. So, rules and boundaries is the second thing I get people to do. New clients, whether they're working with me one-to-one, or whether they're working in core control, or whether they're reading the Well-Fed Freelancer. Start with the Well-Fed Freelancer. Rules and boundaries are absolutely vital, because they will tell you, they will protect the life you want, and they'll then also lead you down the path of the next step of, like I say, who do I want to work with who will basically fit in with my rules and boundaries and become an excellent client. But it sounds like it's nothing to do with business. It's not that important. It's just an add-on or a nice to have. No. It's absolutely fucking fundamental to your business. So, Well-Fed Freelancer, wellfedfreelancer.com. It's £5. You get loads of bonuses, and you get twice your money back and a free pizza if it's no good. Can't say fairer than that, can we?
Ta-ta for now.